Hello and welcome to this episode of Drinking with Dave. First off, I'd like to apologize for the lateness of the videos recently, but there is a plan in place, so bear with me for the next possibly couple of weeks, but I'll try to get the videos up whenever I can. Now, on to this week's beer. This week, it is John Smith's Extra Smooth. This is 3.8%. It's one of these little 440ml cans from Northern Ireland. That's good enough anyway. It's made in Scottish in Newcastle, Broadway Park, Edinburgh, so it's a Scottish beer. It is a nitrogenated ale, it seems. See the big creamy head there and the fantastic lacing. There's a little nitrogen widget in the can. When you open the can, it pops the nitrogen and it bubbles through the beer. For best pours in those situations, dump the whole can right upside down, straight to the glass. Because there's no carbonation, it won't overflow the glass. So feel free to just dump the whole thing in. Anyway, I'll move on to the review here. The head is big and creamy, lovely looking head, great lacing on it. The beer itself is a lightish brown to yellow, rather pale when held up to light, but in other situations a reddish brown. It looks like an ale. It's pretty light. It's a little lighter than Smithwick's perhaps. Anyway, on to the smell test. It smells a little watery, if I'm honest. The big nitrogen head on it does trap a lot of the smell, so you can't really get a good smell off this beer anyway. But it smells a little watery. You can't really smell much of hops or sweetness. But there is a kind of a planty smell, perhaps. Maybe a sweeter plant smell. Like apple peel, perhaps. It's not very appley though, but there is a kind of some kind of muted, earthy fruit peel sort of smell. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's move on to the taste. It's very light. First off, in the mouthfeel, because it's nitrogen and not regular CO2, very, very smooth in the mouthfeel. Smooth enough that you wouldn't think that there was any kind of gas run through it at all. It's pretty flat, actually. Sometimes you get a kind of a little, when you go with Guinness Draft from the cans with the widgets, you get a kind of low level kind of soda bubbly burning kind of sensation in the mouthfeel. But this is incredibly, oh, it's extra smooth, so it's incredibly smooth. There's nothing immediately popping out at me here. It's kind of, for some reason I wanted to say waxy there, but it doesn't taste waxy. I don't know why I wanted to say that. It's kind of a grain barley sort of taste. It's not like molasses or syrup or honey. It's not sweet like that. It's an earthy kind of, a little bready, kind of a bready thing going on there. Maybe like a bit of a donut taste. You see, fantastic lacing. It's mostly just earthy kind of notes. I mean, if you've had a Scottish beer, heavy or wee heavy, sometimes they can taste a lot like this as well. Main flavor notes are fairly muted when it's cold like this. And I think it does say it says serve cold and not chilled. So when you say serve chilled, you probably mean about maybe 6 to 7 degrees, and when you say serve cold, it's anything down to maybe 1 or 4. So not much in the way of hops, not much in the way of sweetness. Generally though, this is a beer that you could fire back a lot of, and being 3.8%, you could drink this all day. This really is a fine session beer. I'm trying to discern taste notes here, but there aren't that many. Which doesn't necessarily make it bad, but it's a little unadventurous perhaps. It seems to be an unadventurous beer, something very, I want to say bland, but it's not bland either. It's just kind of very middle of the road, inoffensive. That'd be a good term for it. It's an inoffensive beer. Very easy to drink, sessionable. 3.8% is nice. This being 5% would not work at all. So it's kind of in the heavy range, and I think that's pretty good for it. It's very smooth. The head is nice. The smell is muted, a little watery. The beer itself, there's you'd swear that there's no gas in it at all, the amount of smoothness to it, but it is nitrogenated, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, we'll move on to the beers for next week, and I have two. I think these are also Scottish beers. Let me just check here. Yep, these are both Scottish beers as well. So, two Scottish beers in a row. The first one is from the Innocent Gun. Well, they're both from the Innocent Gun Brewery, but this one is the Blonde, and this is described as a lightly oaked beer. American oak is seamed with flavor, which Innocent Gun unlocks using a unique style of maturation that imparts a light vanilla oak character to its fruity blonde beer. Serve well chilled for maximum refreshment. 2 units. The percentage on this, if I remember, is quite high, if I could find it here. 6%. This is going to be an Innocent Gun Blonde, so lightly oaked. Brewed in small batches, handcrafted Scottish beer. Vanilla, oak. This is going to be a kind of a Scottish style oaked blonde beer. So if you'd like to vote for the 6% Innocent Gun Blonde, please leave a comment below that says blonde. That would be the simplest way to do it. The other one is the Innocent Gun Traditional, or the Innocent Gun Original. This honey-hued beer is matured from the finest American oak heartwood to unlock natural flavors from deep within the oak grain. These luscious flavors of toffee, vanilla, and oak perfectly balance the beer's malt backbone and light hop fruitiness. Its mellowness and depth of flavor make it a great accompaniment to food like grilled seafood, juicy steaks, and matured cheese. Wow, not a lot of mature steaks and cheese going on here, but what have you. This one also very strong, 6.6%, so it's 2.2 units for this little bottle. Again, brewed in small batches, handcrafted in Scotland. So if you'd like to vote for the Innocent Gun Original, please leave a comment saying original, or if you'd like the blonde, please vote blonde down in the comments there. Sometimes when you're drinking beer, actually a lot of the time when you're drinking beer, if you burp right after, and I mean it may seem a little uncivilized, which is why I tend to cut out my belches on the show, but if you take a drink of the beer and then you burp right after you're having it, you can get the hop character of the beer and some taste notes of the beer that you can't unlock just by smelling or tasting. So you may enjoy burping your beer, as it were, to get the better taste out of it. It's starting to be a bit of a licoricey, like a red licoricey sort of smell, a bit like with the Newcastle Brown Ale. Just with a little swirl here. It seems to be settling again as I swirl it. Oh, it's gone all muddy, that's weird. Anyway, I swirled to get this back in, but it seems to be like aggressively resettling to the point where the beer is quite muddy now, which is, I didn't expect that. Yeah, licorice, but there's still sort of a rooty kind of taste. You know, like, not like ginger. Well, no, a little like ginger actually. There's a little bit of a gingery taste to this. But it just tastes kind of earthy and muddy and stuff. Well, it's a nice tasting beer. I do suggest it if you get your hands on it, but to be honest, I probably would go out of my way to get this, and I did. I went to Northern Ireland to get this. But eminently drinkable, I think. Well, that's all for this episode, and I will hopefully see you next week on Drinking with Dave.